As the room grows quiet, let your thoughts sail away. A day in the Colosseum. Dawn over Rome. The night begins without hurry. The air moves softly across your skin, carrying a trace of cool earth and the faint scent of rain long gone. Somewhere outside, a window creaks and the quiet world exhales. You are safe here. You are allowed to rest. The thoughts of the day no longer need you. They can drift like leaves on slow water, floating further away until the surface becomes smooth again. Let your shoulders settle. Let your breath lengthen. The space around you begins to expand, not through walls or ceilings, but through stillness itself. Each sound that remains is gentle. A hum of air, the small rhythm of your own pulse, the steady calm that lives beneath all noise. Imagine the light fading, one layer at a time. The glow of the lamp, the trace of the window's reflection, the thin silver of the moon on glass, all of it softens. Shadows blur, edges melt. The room becomes a quiet landscape of calm shapes and resting air. You may picture a field at night. Grass bending under slow wind. A line of hills in the distance, holding the last warmth of the day. Far away, water murmurs over stones. Every sound blends into the next until nothing stands out, nothing asks for attention. Only the rhythm remains, the slow breath of the earth beneath you. With each inhale, imagine the air moving through tall cedar trees, clean and cool. With each exhale, the body loosens a little more. Muscles remember how to unclench. The heartbeat slows to meet the pace of the wind. There is no need to try. Rest does not have to be earned. It arrives when the world stops asking for motion. Now picture yourself beneath a dim and widening sky. The stars begin to fade and the first pale color of dawn rises over a distant horizon. Somewhere beyond that horizon lies Rome, vast, breathing, ancient. The city begins to stir before the sun has fully risen, its rooftops catching light like embers, waking after a long night. You can almost hear it, the faint hum of a world about to open, the echo of sandals on stone, the whisper of cloth as 1,000 togas shift in the morning air. It is the beginning of another spectacle, another ordinary day that history will remember. This is a day in the Colosseum. Dawn over Rome. And before the roar, before the sun fills the marble arches, you are here, quiet, awake, and ready to drift through time as the eternal city begins to breathe once more. In the calm before the sun fully rises, the city exhales its first breath. Rome, heavy with stone and memory, begins to wake. From narrow streets, the scent of oil lamps fades into the cool of dawn. Merchants stir behind wooden shutters, voices low, blending with the distant shuffle of hooves. The air tastes of dust, olives, and the promise of heat. Through the quiet, the Colosseum waits, its arches pale against the sky, its shadows still long and blue. To the Romans, this is more than a place. It is rhythm, ritual, the pulse of the empire. Even before the gates open, footsteps echo through the corridors, and the sound of iron chains and wooden wheels hum beneath the stillness. You do not walk toward it. The sound seems to come to you slowly, as if the world is unfolding on its own. The murmur of the crowd builds like a tide that has not yet reached the shore, and as the light spreads over the ancient stone, the day begins, a day in the Colosseum, where breath meets time, and every sound becomes part of a history still half asleep. The gathering crowd. The sound rises gently, like morning mist curling through the air. It does not rush. It unfolds, slow and weightless, carrying the rhythm of footsteps on worn stone. A city awakens beneath a pale sky. The first voices are soft, almost shy, blending with the faint hum of vendors opening their stalls. Nothing is hurried. Every motion feels as though it has happened 1,000 times before. People begin to move together, drawn toward the wide arches ahead. Sand drifts under their sandals, light as dust on wind. The streets breathe with them, a living current flowing toward the great arena. In the cool shade between marble columns, the scent of oil, bread, and wine lingers. A murmur builds, but never becomes noise. It is simply life stretching into sound. The senators walk first, their robes brushing the stone with a quiet sigh. They know their place, shaded and close to the heart of power. Above them, the equestrians take their seats a little higher, a little nearer to the open air. Further still, the citizens climb, families together, sharing laughter that fades into warmth. And higher yet, near the sky itself, the rest of the people settle. The laborers, the travelers, the ones who bring color and breath to the day. Each step upward feels lighter than the last. The amphitheater fills slowly, as if inhaling. 50,000 people, each with their own story, each drawing the same air. From afar, they seem like ripples across calm water. One movement, one rhythm, one quiet anticipation. No one shouts, no one pushes. They move as the morning moves, steady, balanced, aware. The sunlight spreads through the arches, finding faces, warming shoulders, catching in the dust that hangs above the sand. Somewhere beneath the hum, you can hear the faint creak of ropes, the whisper of linen sails adjusting to wind. The vast structure breathes along with the crowd, ancient stone and living hearts sharing a single pace. The merchants lower their voices now. A few birds pass overhead, their wings tracing soft shadows that vanish before they land. Every sound melts into another until nothing stands apart. It is all one long exhale, one body at rest, gathering beneath the calm of the Roman sky. The air settles. The people settle. The Colosseum waits, patient and alive, holding the quiet pulse of the city in its stone hands. And for a moment, everything feels still, suspended between breath and silence, as if time itself has decided to rest. The structure of power. From the first light of morning, the Colosseum rests beneath a sky that feels endless. It rises slowly from the earth, its arches breathing out the quiet of the early day. The air is mild, the stone pale and warm beneath the sun. All around, Rome begins to stir, but here there is stillness. The sound of sandals on stone fades before it finds an echo. The amphitheater holds its breath, ancient and patient, waiting for the city to wake. From top to bottom, it mirrors Rome itself, tier upon tier, each one a reflection of order. Every step, every curve, is part of a design older than memory. Within this circle, life is arranged in layers, and each layer carries its own kind of calm. At the lowest tier, shadows cling to the marble. The nobles take their seats closest to the arena floor, where the sand lies smooth and untouched. Their benches are cool, their robes heavy with quiet color. They sit without rush, their gestures measured, their words few. The air near them smells of oil, of polished leather, of the faint sweetness of wine poured too early in the day. Even silence seems to serve them here, soft and absolute. Around their stillness, the light folds itself, respectful and slow. Above them, the citizens gather. Their seats are carved from limestone, pale and warm to the touch. The stone remembers the weight of those who came before. They share bread, water, bits of conversation carried on the gentle hum of the morning. Their laughter rises and fades, a rhythm as light as the dust in the air. They are not close enough to power to feel its pulse, yet not far enough to be forgotten. In their middle ground, life feels steady, familiar, and kind. Higher still, the wooden benches stretch toward open air. The workers, the travelers, the forgotten ones climb until they find the sky. The wood creaks beneath them but holds, carrying their weight as though it has done so forever. Children lean forward, wide-eyed at the space below. Mothers hush them with soft hands. The air is filled with the scent of olives, bread, and sun. Voices overlap, not loud, not forced, only human. It is the sound of the city breathing through its people. From afar, all the layers blend into one. Marble, stone, and wood become one tone, one movement, one quiet pattern of belonging. The amphitheater holds not just bodies, but harmony. It is a map of the world drawn in circles and silence, 50,000 hearts moving at the same gentle pace. Above them, the wind passes through the arches, light as a sigh. Dust glows golden in the air, swirling, vanishing, returning again. For a moment all is still. The Colosseum stands complete, a monument to order, to rhythm, to peace that lingers even in the heart of power. The atmosphere before the games. The morning has fully arrived, soft and golden across the arches. Light drifts down through thin sails of fabric stretched high above, swaying gently with the wind. Shadows glide slowly along the seats, quiet as breath. The Colosseum feels alive now, yet still calm, still half dreaming. Beneath its vast rim, the crowd begins to settle into rhythm. Voices hum in low conversation, blending into one long whisper that never rises too high. The day will grow louder soon, but not yet. Vendors move through the aisles with easy patience, their baskets heavy but balanced with care. They call out softly, their words stretched thin by the heat. The scent of warm olives drifts between the rows, honey cakes glisten in the light. The air carries the faint sweetness of fruit, the sharp tang of wine mixed with water, the slow smoke of cooked meat. Sausages wrapped in paper pass from hand to hand. No one hurries. The gestures are simple and slow, made with the comfort of routine. Every exchange is small, familiar, human. The warmth deepens, pressing lightly against the skin. The air trembles over the sand, a thin shimmer that makes distance blur. From somewhere beyond the walls, a gust of wind brings the scent of dust and river water. The mixture of smells, salt, oil, heat, and fruit, settles around the people like a shared memory. They do not notice it anymore. It belongs to the day, as ordinary and steady as the hum of the crowd. Children lean forward on their parents' knees, trying to see the open arena below. Their voices are soft but bright, carried upward like birdsong. The parents smile without speaking, their hands resting gently on small shoulders. There is a feeling of patience here, of quiet anticipation that has learned to wait. The games have not begun, yet the moment itself feels full. It stretches like a held breath, peaceful and suspended. Above, the linen canopy shifts and sighs, pulled by ropes that creak softly. The light underneath is golden and filtered, softening every line, every edge. The stone glows pale, the air shimmers faintly. Even the murmurs of the crowd seem to move in rhythm with the sails. Time slows, as if the entire amphitheater drifts upon its own quiet sea. In this hour before the spectacle, the Colosseum is a world of its own. Nothing outside matters, the city, the noise, the weight of history. Only this circle of stone, this ocean of still warmth, this gathering of people waiting for something they already know. Beneath the calm, the sand lies untouched, smooth as silk beneath the sun. It waits without thought or memory, patient as stone itself. The faint sound of distant drums echoes once, low and far away, not enough to stir the crowd. For now there is only this, the hum of voices, the taste of honey and wine, the slow beating of hearts beneath the Roman sun, the calm before motion, the peace before story, the quiet breath of the empire before it begins to speak. Opening spectacle. The hour has changed, though the light still feels gentle. Shadows have grown shorter, drawn inward toward the wide circle of sand. The air hums with the slow pulse of heat. Nothing begins with suddenness here. Even the unfolding of spectacle arrives like a tide that has been turning for hours, quiet and deliberate. Beneath the still air, the scent of dust deepens, warm and dry. A hush drifts across the seats. Thousands lean forward, yet no one speaks. The vast amphitheater holds its breath. Then softly, the gates open. Heavy doors slide apart, their iron hinges groaning like a sigh released from the earth. From the shadows come the condemned, shapes made small by distance and sun. They move slowly into the light, their steps heavy, sinking slightly into the sand with each pace. The day presses down upon them, bright and endless. Dust rises around their ankles, curling in faint spirals before settling again. There is no music, no call to arms, only the sound of breathing and the faraway creak of rope. They pause at the center, framed by light and expectation. For a moment, the world feels suspended. The men look neither left nor right, only ahead, where the brightness is too sharp to bear. They know the pattern of this day, the rhythm it demands. Theirs is not a fight, but a symbol. A story retold in flesh and silence. The crowd watches, unmoving. There is curiosity, not cruelty, an ancient need to witness what the city believes must be seen. Somewhere beneath the floor, a low rumble stirs. The hidden doors begin to open. At first, only dust escapes, fine and golden, catching the sun like smoke. Then the movement changes. From the dark emerge shapes, muscle and fur, gleaming eyes, slow steps upon the sand, lions, leopards, bears, each led by unseen hands from tunnels deep below. The air shifts, alive with scent and sound. Feathers drift, claws scrape, the quiet rhythm of animals adjusting to the light. The men stand still, framed by this living myth. The crowd's breath becomes one, rising and falling as though bound to the motion below. The animals prowl without haste, circling, blinking, their ears twitching at every distant sound. A single bird crosses the open sky above the arena, a pale flicker against the brightness. Time moves differently here, slower, heavier, filled with pauses that seem eternal. The scene unfolds without words. Each step, each movement feels rehearsed by history itself. The condemned reach for their places in the story, walking not as fighters, but as figures in an old ritual of consequence. The animals follow, patient, curious, indifferent. The sand bears their weight, the heat presses gently down, and everything becomes a quiet performance of balance and surrender. From the higher seats, the people appear as one shape, a still ocean of faces turned toward the center. No cheer, no command, only the faint rustle of cloth, the shifting of breath. The air itself seems to listen. The vast circle of stone hums faintly, carrying sound upward in waves that fade before they reach the light. Beneath the shade, sails, dust glows like gold. Above them all, the blue sky remains unchanged, calm and endless. In the soft rhythm of the moment, it becomes hard to tell where story ends and reality begins. The condemned walk like actors upon a stage, carved from time. The beasts move as though drawn from the edge of dream. The crowd exists between them, half awake, half lost, caught in the spell of spectacle and silence. There is no fear here, no rage, only stillness, the kind that belongs to ceremony. A lion turns its head toward the sound of distant drums, though no drum has been struck. A man raises his gaze to the emperor's seat, not to plead, but to be seen. A breeze drifts through the arena, soft and cool, carrying with it the smell of stone, oil, and sand. For a heartbeat, everything aligns, the sun, the crowd, the figures below, and the world feels weightless. The story is not new. It has been told many times in many mornings just like this, yet each retelling feels eternal. The men move, the animals wait, and the city watches, bound together by quiet expectation. The Colosseum breathes once more, ancient and awake. Nothing breaks the calm, nothing rushes. Only the slow turning of light upon the sand, the patience of the living and the stillness of stone. When it ends, no one speaks. The gates close as softly as they opened. Dust hangs in the sunlight, turning slowly, endlessly, before falling back to rest. The Hunt's Venatio. The quiet that filled the morning begins to shift. The light has deepened, the air grown heavy with sun. A new rhythm moves through the crowd, slow at first, like breath stirring after rest. Somewhere unseen, a trumpet sounds. Its note is long and low, not sharp, but solemn, drifting upward until it fades into the heat above. The hum of voices falls away. All attention turns toward the wide ring of sand below, now bright as gold beneath the sky. The gates open again. From the shadowed tunnels emerge the hunters. Their steps are measured, their movements calm. Nets hang from their shoulders, spears gleam softly in their hands. There is no rush, no violence yet, only the precision of ritual. They walk with the same grace as dancers who have practiced 1,000 times before. Around them, the air shimmers faintly, blurring the distance between flesh and light. Dust clings to their sandals, rises and drifts like mist. Then the ground seems to breathe. Beneath the arena floor, hidden doors begin to open with a slow, steady groan. From the darkness come the animals, led by invisible hands, through corridors of shadow and noise. A lion steps first, its mane catching the light in deep amber strands. Then a bear, moving like slow thunder. A leopard follows, its spots glinting like drops of shadow on gold. Behind them, the shapes of antelopes, wild boars, even birds with long white feathers, ostriches from the far edges of the empire. Each creature steps into the circle as if entering a dream made of heat and sand. The machines beneath the floor hum faintly, lifting cages that vanish as quickly as they rise. The crowd leans forward, silent but alive, drawn by motion, by breath, by the ancient pulse of life before language. The hunters raise their nets, their faces calm. They do not chase, they do not shout, they wait. The animals move through the air like shadows through water. The sunlight paints their fur in gold, silver, and ash. For a moment, the entire world seems to hold its balance between stillness and movement. Then it begins. A single step, a shift of sand, a flick of muscle. The rhythm returns, not chaos, not fury, but something older, quieter. The hunters and the beasts move together, guided by instinct, by centuries of repetition. Dust rises and swirls above them, soft and glowing, turning the air into a veil of light. The sounds, footsteps, growls, the faint clash of metal blend into one endless hum, steady and strangely human. High above, the people breathe in time with the spectacle. The sails flutter faintly, scattering the sunlight into thin golden streams. Every motion below feels distant, slowed by heat and silence. The crowd does not roar, it murmurs, a soft wave that never breaks. The Colosseum becomes a heartbeat, vast and patient, echoing through stone and flesh alike. When the hunters lower their weapons, the air exhales. The dust drifts downward again, slow and weightless. The animals retreat through the hidden gates. The sound fades, the rhythm softens, and the sand smooths itself once more. The moment passes, leaving only warmth, breath, and the faint scent of the earth beneath the sun. The gladiators enter. The light has ripened into full noon, resting heavy upon the stone. Shadows hide beneath the benches, and the air moves in slow waves above the sand. A still warmth hums across the amphitheatre. The morning's noise has faded, replaced by the hush of thousands waiting together. The sails above shift and sigh, carrying the faint scent of dust and oil. The Colosseum breathes once, deep and steady, as if drawing calm from the earth. Below, the sand is raked smooth, every mark erased. The traces of what came before are hidden beneath the soft, pale surface. Hands sweep, dust rises, the world resets itself. For a moment, the arena is a blank page, ready to be written upon again. The air glows white in the heat. A thin shimmer dances where sunlight meets stone. Then, without fanfare, the doors open. From the cool darkness of the tunnels, the gladiators emerge. They walk in pairs, slow and silent, the rhythm of their steps as even as a heartbeat. Armor glints in the light, bronze and iron reflecting the calm blaze of noon. Their faces are hidden behind masks of metal, expressions erased by craft and purpose. The world above holds still, drawn by the beauty of order, by the quiet power of men who have learned to move without hesitation. They do not look to the crowd, they look only ahead, to the sand that waits beneath their feet. Each knows his role, his partner, the long pattern of motion that will follow. Their discipline carries the peace of inevitability. Nothing in them is rushed, nothing uncertain. The first to step forward carries a trident and a net, the retiarius. His armor is light, his movements fluid, his weapon a thread of patience and timing. Behind him follows the secutor, his helmet smooth, his shield broad, his sword balanced like the line between life and rest. Then comes the Mamillo, heavy with protection, his form sculpted in light and shadow. Together they are not chaos but choreography, not battle but dance. The air trembles slightly with the weight of their approach. Dust curls around their legs like smoke. The sand softens beneath their boots, leaving behind patterns that vanish almost instantly. The crowd watches, silent. The hum of the city seems to have drifted far away, as if only this circle of stone exists, suspended between sound and stillness. When they reach the center, the gladiators stop. The sun pours over them in even light. Every line of armor, every curve of blade glows faintly as if alive. One by one they turn, acknowledging the emperor with a small movement of the hand or the tilt of a helmet. The gesture is formal, practiced, but it carries a quiet grace, an acceptance of place, of ritual, of fate. The wind stirs through the arches, cool against the warmth of the day. The sails above shift again, casting stripes of shade that move like gentle waves across the tiers. A bird circles high overhead, its wings flashing once before vanishing into the sky. Time stretches, then softens, as though the world has decided to rest in this moment. Then, with the faintest signal, the training begins. It is not yet the clash of metal, not yet the cry of contest. It is movement only, measured, symmetrical, patient. The retiarius throws his net lightly, the secutor turns, the mamillo raises his blade and lets the weight of it fall through air. The sound is not harsh, but low and rhythmic, a heartbeat carried by the wind. The spectators breathe with them, their eyes tracing the curve of every motion. There is no roar, no cheer, only the quiet wonder of watching skill unfold. The arena glows with light, soft and gold. The dust settles and rises again, drifting like smoke between movements. Every action finds its echo in silence. When the practice ends, the men stand motionless. The world around them exhales. Nothing breaks, nothing disturbs the balance. The gladiators turn toward the gates once more, their armor dim now, their steps as slow as when they came. The sand holds their footprints a moment longer, then the wind smooths them away. The Colosseum returns to stillness. The air rests. The moment remains, warm, weightless, complete, the crowd and the emperor. The afternoon has reached its quiet peak. The sun rests directly above the Colosseum, spilling light that turns the air pale and slow. Heat trembles over the sand, softening every edge, every color. The noise of the crowd has faded into a calm hum, the steady breath of thousands moving together without thought. The sails above cast shifting patterns of shade that drift across faces, across marble, across the calm curve of the emperor's seat. He sits high above the arena, still as a carved figure, a part of the stone itself. The folds of his robe rest perfectly in place, the gold of his crown catching a small flame of sunlight. Around him, attendants stand in silence, their eyes lowered, their hands still. He doesn't speak. His gaze moves slowly, following the rhythm of motion below, the measured steps, the turning of shields, the fall of sand. When a fighter stumbles, the sound is brief, the thud of metal meeting dust. The arena holds its breath. Time narrows. The emperor does not react. He watches with the calm of someone who has seen this moment many times before. The man below lies waiting, his breath shallow, his hand trembling faintly around the hilt of his weapon. Then the emperor raises his arm, not quickly, not with flourish, but with quiet certainty. His hand tilts, a small gesture, barely a movement. The meaning is understood. The air shifts. The fallen man lowers his eyes. The crowd exhales as one. There is no cheer, no cry of grief, only the soft return of sound, the rhythm restored. It happens like the tide, silence, motion, release. The emperor lowers his hand again, resting it upon the carved arm of his chair. His face remains calm, unreadable. Around him, the hum of the people swells once more, neither joy nor sorrow, only the sound of the day continuing. The sun slips slightly westward. Shadows lengthen across the sand. The emperor remains unmoving, eternal as the walls that surround him. The Colosseum breathes again, slow and even, as the story of the empire unfolds beneath his gaze. Afternoon. Interlude. The hours drift gently into afternoon. The light has softened now, no longer bright and sharp, but mellow like warm honey poured through air. The heat that once pressed heavy upon the stone has begun to ease, carried away by the faintest breeze that slips through the arches. The Colosseum exhales with it, settling into a slower rhythm, as if even the walls are tired from holding so much sound. The crowd relaxes, shoulders lowering, voices turning calm. Vendors return to the aisles, moving without hurry. Their steps are steady, their trays balanced by habit and care. The smell of food follows them, sweet honey cakes, salted olives, baked bread, still warm from the morning's ovens. They pour watered wine into small clay cups, passing them hand to hand. The sound of coins, faint and rhythmic, mixes with laughter that has grown soft around the edges. The crowd eats quietly, savoring the pause. Conversation hums like a lullaby, low and steady, carrying through the open air. On the arena floor, slaves move carefully, raking the sand into smooth waves that hide the marks of the morning. Their movements are precise, silent, and patient. They work in rhythm, the scrape of wood and the whisper of feet blending into one long, even breath. The traces of what came before, blood, footprints, the weight of stories already finished, are gently erased. The surface becomes clean again, waiting. Above them, ropes creak faintly as the great sails shift, stretching to catch what remains of the sun. People lean back, their eyes half closed. Some talk softly, others watch the dust rise in slow golden spirals. The air feels lighter, touched by the scent of wine and stone. Time stretches unbroken, unhurried. The noise of the city beyond the walls feels far away, softened by distance, and the warm hum of thousands at rest. The sun begins to move lower, sliding along the curve of the amphitheater. Long shadows drift over the seats, painting the crowd in patterns of golden dusk. Everything grows quieter. The Colosseum seems to breathe again, slow, gentle, ancient, alive. For a little while, there is nothing to do, nothing to prove, only to exist together in the warmth of a fading day. Evening, spectacle and departure. The day leans softly into evening. The air begins to cool, carrying the scent of dust, oil, and fading sun. Shadows stretch long across the sand, delicate as brushstrokes upon gold. The noise that once filled the amphitheater has softened into a gentle hum, a final sigh before silence. Light lingers in the upper arches, warm and slow, as though reluctant to leave. The Colosseum glows faintly, its stones drinking in the last breath of daylight. Sometimes the arena changes, transformed by hidden hands. Water seeps upward through the sand, glimmering under the sun's last fire. Slowly, the floor becomes a shallow sea. Small ships appear, drifting upon the mirrored surface, their oars dipping quietly in rhythm. The crowd leans forward, watching the reflection of sky and sail ripple together. Wooden hulls meet softly, sending circles of light outward like a heartbeat. It is not war, but the memory of one, an echo of stories told and retold, made gentle by time. When the water drains away, the sand returns, smooth once more. Elephants follow, their armor catching what remains of the light. Gold flashes, then fades as the sun lowers behind the walls. Music rises for a moment, flutes, drums, a low hum of strings, before dissolving into the warm air. The notes fall like dust, settling upon faces turned toward the dying glow. The evening deepens. The sails above rustle softly, folding into shadow. Voices fade into murmurs, then into silence. The first stars appear, faint and trembling. People begin to stand, gathering their things, their laughter quiet now, their footsteps light. They move slowly toward the exits, still wrapped in the warmth of the day's long rhythm. Slaves gather baskets, vendors stack empty trays, and the last echoes of the crowd drift upward, caught in the stillness of the arches. When night finally arrives, it feels gentle, almost kind. The marble cools beneath the touch of the wind, the torches dim. The sand, once bright and loud with life, lies smooth and untouched again. Above it all, the Colosseum rests, calm and timeless, holding within its walls the memory of voices and light. It does not end, it only sleeps, waiting for another dawn to breathe it back to life. The rise of guilds. From empire to craft. Centuries pass in silence, and the world changes its breath. The roar of Rome fades into the distance like a dream dissolving with dawn. The echo of marching feet, of crowds, of voices rising beneath marble arches, all of it softens, drifting outward until it becomes no more than a memory folded into the wind. Where there was once empire, there are now villages. Where once the sound of command filled the air, there is only the low hum of work, the rhythm of hands against wood, leather, and stone. The earth feels closer now. Roads narrow, buildings lean inward, and towns gather around the sound of bells and the smell of smoke. The vastness of Rome has contracted into something smaller, warmer, and more human. The fields stretch quiet beneath slow-moving clouds, the rivers turn with patient loops, and the people rise each morning not to conquest, but to craft. Their tools replace their swords, and their work becomes their voice. In the soft light of dawn, a hammer meets the anvil with steady grace. Sparks flare and vanish, bright as thoughts that never need to be spoken. A carpenter smooths the edge of oak until it feels like water. A weaver bends over her loom, her fingers dancing across threads that carry the colors of earth and air. Every sound, every motion falls into its place within the rhythm of a day built upon patience. The world no longer rushes toward greatness, it leans gently into survival. What remains of the empire is not its marble, but its memory of order, now translated into the small rituals of work. Markets bloom where soldiers once gathered. The language of trade replaces the speech of command. In the hush between morning and noon, voices rise in song, simple and full. The hands that once built monuments now shape bowls, shoes and tools. Each craft carries a quiet devotion, each movement a trace of care that keeps the world from falling apart. The people no longer look to the horizon for power, they look to their own hearths, to the warmth of creation and the still joy of making. The centuries turn like pages, slow and deliberate, written in wood smoke and breath. The empire is gone, but life remains, smaller, humbler, and deeply alive in the quiet pulse of work. The need for order. The centuries after Rome pass softly, one upon another, until the noise of empire becomes the whisper of work. In the quiet towns that rise where legions once stood, the rhythm of life is slower, smaller, shaped by hands rather than command. At first, the craftsmen work alone. Each workshop glows with its own fire, each hammer strokes its own language. The light spills through narrow windows, glinting on brass, wood, and stone. The air smells of leather, smoke, and grain. In the stillness of early morning, you can almost hear the pulse of the world, measured, human, calm. But work brings trade, and trade brings the restless hum of need. Across the markets, the sound of bargaining grows. Voices rise, not in anger, but uncertainty. Some cut corners, others underprice their labor. Quality bends to profit, and trust begins to thin. The craftsman who once worked for pride now works for coin. His tools still gleam, but the purpose behind them falters. The world, once steady, begins to lean. From necessity, the people turn toward one another. In taverns and courtyards over bread and ale, quiet discussions take shape. Hands that once competed now rest side by side. There is talk of fairness, of order, of keeping work honest. Out of that talk, something begins to grow slowly, deliberately, like stone laid upon stone. The first guilds form not as governments but as families of skill, bound by rules, by craft, by shared breath and effort. They meet by candlelight, their faces half hidden by flame. Parchment is spread, ink laid thick, oaths spoken softly. Each promise feels sacred, though no temple stands nearby. They agree to protect one another, to guard the quality of their art. No deceit, no fraud, no theft of skill. The tools of their trades become symbols, not just instruments. A hammer stands for trust, a chisel for truth. The sound of their gathering spreads through the town like a steady pulse. Apprentices watch from doorways, their eyes wide with quiet hope. Masters nod, their hands folded, knowing that something old has been reborn, order from the dust of chaos. And so as centuries drift onward, the scattered hands of labor find unity. The world grows smaller again, but surer, steadier, guided by the slow discipline of work. The guilds breathe into being, not loud or proud, but with the calm certainty of things meant to last. They are the new Rome, built not from empire, but from trust. Apprentices and masters. The morning in a medieval town begins softly. Smoke curls from low chimneys, bells murmur across the roofs, and the air smells faintly of iron, bread, and damp stone. A boy wakes to the sound of footsteps in the workshop below, the careful rhythm of tools meeting wood. He is no longer just a child, he is an apprentice now. His hands are still uncertain, but his eyes are steady. The world he has entered is quiet, patient, shaped by repetition and the slow passing of days. He rises before the light fully reaches the windows. His master is already at work, sleeves rolled, his movements steady as breath. The boy watches in silence. There are no grand lessons, no sudden revelations, only the same action, done again and again until it becomes truth. He learns to sweep the dust, to sort the nails by size, to hold the plane so it glides smooth along the grain. He learns that craft begins not with hands but with attention. The shop smells of shavings and oil. Outside, the town stirs, carts rolling across cobblestones, vendors calling out their wares. But inside, time moves differently. The world beyond the door fades, replaced by the rhythm of labor and the low hum of concentration. The seasons turn, the boy's arms grow stronger, his gestures more certain. He no longer asks questions, he listens to the sound of his own work answering them. The master speaks rarely, but his silence teaches. A nod means approval, a pause means correction. In the evenings, they eat by the small fire at the back of the shop. The master speaks then, telling stories of roads he once traveled, of cities where towers gleam against the sky. The boy listens, half to the words, half to the warmth of the flame. When he comes of age, he becomes a journeyman. The word itself carries motion. He leaves the town with a pack of tools and the blessing of his guild. The road stretches before him, miles of fields, rivers, and stone bridges leading toward places he has only heard of. He works where he can, offering his craft to strangers, learning from those whose hands have shaped other traditions. Each town holds a new rhythm, a different scent of wood, a new sound of steel. In the evenings he finds shelter in inns filled with laughter, or beneath the stars where his dreams smell faintly of smoke and pine. Years pass like this, quiet and full. His skill deepens until it feels less like knowledge and more like instinct. The work becomes him, and he becomes the work. One day, when the journey has circled back to its beginning, he returns to the guild. He stands before its elders, older now, sun-lined and calm. In his hands he holds the piece that will decide his life, a single work made not to impress, but to prove that he has listened to the craft itself. The masterpiece is laid upon the table. It gleams softly in the morning light. The elders examine it, their faces unreadable. Minutes pass, long and soundless. Then one of them nods, slow and certain. The boy, now a man, bows his head. He is no longer a student, no longer a traveler. He is a master of his craft. The workshop will be his own, and one day another boy will stand in the doorway at dawn, ready to begin again. The structure of protection. Evening settles slowly over the narrow streets of the medieval town. Lamps glow behind shutters, and the scent of cooked bread drifts through the air. Inside the workshops, the fires still burn low, the last sparks fading into orange embers. The tools are set aside, the benches swept clean. Yet in another corner of the city, in a hall built of oak and stone, life continues. It is here that the guild gathers, steady as the heartbeat of the town itself. The guild is more than a circle of craftsmen. It is the quiet rhythm that holds their world together. Each man, each woman belongs to it as a thread belongs to cloth. They work in different trades, yet speak the same language of patience and precision. When the sun rises, their hands labor apart. But when night descends, they meet beneath the same roof, drawn together by the warmth of shared craft. The hall stands firm against the wind, its beams carved with patterns that tell stories of work and unity. At the long wooden table, candles burn low, their flames reflecting in cups of ale. The masters sit beside the journeymen, and even the apprentices, eyes wide and eager, find a place among them. They talk softly, not of wealth or power, but of the day's work, how the grain of the wood behaved, how the iron took to heat, how patience turns labor into art. The words drift upward with the smoke, blending into the quiet air. The guild keeps rules not out of sternness but care. It sets fair prices, guards the standards of quality, and ensures that no craftsman is left to struggle alone. When fire strikes, the guild rebuilds. When illness comes, it brings food and warmth. When one among them dies, the others walk in silence behind the coffin, carrying the weight of his tools to rest beside him. Their loyalty is not written in law, but in gesture. A shared coin, a helping hand, a seat kept warm. Each year they hold feasts to mark the turning of the seasons. Tables are laid with bread, cheese, and roast meat, and laughter fills the hall where the sound of hammers usually rings. For one night, work is forgotten, and joy takes its place. They sing songs of craft and memory, the words simple, the tones soft. The hall becomes a refuge, the glow of its light spilling through the cracks in the shutters and out into the cold street. To belong to the guild is to belong to something greater than one's trade. It is a promise that no one's skill will vanish alone, that every hand will find another to steady it. The guild does not build walls, it builds trust. In a world of storms and uncertainty, it stands as a quiet shelter, a second family built on craft, on time, and on the silent beauty of shared labor. Influence and power. The night deepens across the rooftops of the medieval town. A pale moon hangs above the chimneys, and the streets are quiet except for the faint sound of footsteps on stone. Inside the guild hall, candles burn in long rows, their light trembling against carved walls. The scent of wax and parchment fills the air. The guild masters sit together, speaking softly, their words deliberate and slow. They are no longer only craftsmen, they are the quiet stewards of a city's rhythm. With success has come authority. What began as a brotherhood of workers has grown into the pulse of the town itself. Guild leaders now sit beside merchants and magistrates. Their voices guide trade, their seals mark the laws. They decide the prices of cloth and iron, the measures of grain, the rules of apprenticeship. Their judgment shapes the balance between need and fairness. Beyond their doors, the markets depend upon their calm decisions. Even the church listens when the guild speaks. But power changes all things, even when it moves gently. The guilds grow cautious, careful to protect what they have built. Strangers from other lands, once welcomed for their knowledge, find the doors less open now. Innovation slows not from ignorance, but from fear of disorder. The familiar becomes sacred, the new is met with silence. Within the walls, skill is preserved perfectly, but progress begins to sleep. And yet, the dignity of work remains untouched. Beneath every layer of authority, beneath the rules and seals, the heartbeat of craftsmanship still endures. In the quiet shops that line the narrow streets, the masters still rise before dawn, lighting their fires, smoothing the edges of their tools. The apprentices still listen to the steady music of hammers and saws. The smell of wood and metal still fills the air. Every stroke, every breath belongs to the same devotion that founded the guild long ago. The masters may now wear fine robes, their signatures carried by couriers to distant towns, but their pride is not in power, it is in perfection. They know that each law they pass, each coin they weigh, carries the echo of their work. The sound of the hammer still guides them, even when it grows faint. Outside, the city sleeps under the glow of lanterns. The guild hall stands silent again, its doors closed, its purpose fulfilled. Within its walls, the echo of voices fades, replaced by the memory of what built them, the simple, patient dignity of hands that shape the world. Legacy. The centuries drift onward like mist across a still lake. The clang of hammers fades, replaced by the hum of machines. Workshops that once glowed with the soft fire of oil lamps now echo with the steady rhythm of gears and steam. The old ways yield to something new, faster and louder, yet the memory of patient hands remains, hidden within the turning wheels. The world moves forward, but it carries with it the quiet heartbeat of craft. Where once stood the guild halls of oak and stone, new buildings rise, taller, colder, made of iron and glass. Smoke winds upward into the sky, and men and women labor not at benches, but beside roaring engines. The rhythm has changed, but the purpose endures. Skill still matters. The pride of work still hums beneath the surface. Each motion, though part of something vast and mechanical, is still guided by the care that shaped the first chisel, the first thread, the first flame. The masters and journeymen are gone, their names faded from memory, yet their spirit lingers in every workshop, in every craftsman who bends close to their work with quiet devotion. Factories may replace the small shops, but the essence remains, the belief that creation holds meaning, that even the smallest task deserves precision and grace. Somewhere a worker lifts a tool and feels a rhythm older than he knows, a rhythm of patience, of purpose, of quiet dignity. In this new world of noise and motion, that old spirit is not lost. It simply changes shape. It moves through the hum of the machines, through the glow of molten metal, through the steady hands that guide the endless process. Every act of skill becomes an echo of the guild's promise, that the labor of the hand is a kind of honor, a sacred exchange between time and touch. As night falls over the new cities, their lights shimmer like the fires of long-forgotten forges. The sound of work fades into the distance, softened by the wind. The air carries the faint scent of iron, of effort, of memory. What was once done in silence now hums through the world itself. A legacy of creation, humble and eternal. Festivals and feasts. The turning of seasons. Winter comes softly, not with thunder or sudden frost, but with a slow stillness that settles across the land. The fields, once golden and alive, now lie quiet beneath a thin veil of snow. Trees stand motionless, their branches etched against the pale sky. The air carries the faint scent of wood smoke and pine, drifting gently through narrow streets and over sleeping hills. The rhythm of the world slows, as though even time itself has drawn closer to the hearth to rest. In the small towns, rooftops gather snow like blankets. The sound of footsteps fades quickly, muffled by the soft white ground. Doors close early, shutters are drawn tight against the wind, and windows glow with the light of quiet evenings. Inside, the air is warm and fragrant, bread baking, stews simmering, a log hissing softly in the fire. People move slower now, speaking in low voices, their laughter gentle, their work set aside for the comfort of rest. The workshops that hummed through spring and summer now lie mostly silent. Tools hang in their places, polished and waiting. The scent of oil and metal lingers faintly in the cool air. The guild halls, once full of talk and motion, hold gatherings not for work, but for companionship. They share meals, stories, and small songs, voices blending with the crackle of the fire. The great clock of labor has turned, and for a while, its hands pause. Outside, the snow deepens, the streets grow empty, save for the faint sound of bells carried on the wind. The market stalls are closed, but the taverns glow, places where warmth and laughter endure against the cold. Children press their faces to frosted windows, watching lantern light dance on the snow. Old men sit by the fire, their eyes reflecting the calm rhythm of the flames. The year's work is behind them now, and all that remains is the slow unwinding of winter nights. The land breathes differently in this season. The fields sleep, the rivers slow beneath their frozen skin. Even the stars seem sharper, closer, as if keeping watch. In this stillness there is no urgency, no striving, only a quiet understanding that every year must rest before it begins again. The craftsman, the farmer, the weaver, all feel it. Their hands, calloused and tired, find peace in stillness. The mind too softens. The heart drifts toward calm. When morning comes, the light will be pale and new. The frost will glitter on every roof, every stone, every branch, and beneath that fragile shimmer lies the quiet promise of spring, the assurance that what sleeps now will wake again. The turning of the seasons is not an ending but a breath, a pause between labors. It is the world itself exhaling, reminding all who listen that even the hardest work deserves its moment of rest, its gentle silence before the dawn. The Winter Feast. Night settles deep over the town, and the snow outside glows faintly beneath the moon. Through the narrow streets, light spills from doorways and shutters, warm and golden against the blue of the cold. Inside the halls and houses, fires burn strong. The wood crackles, sending small sparks upward to vanish into the smoky air. The scent of roasting meat mingles with the sweetness of baked bread and the sharp trace of spice. The sound of laughter rises and falls, a quiet tide of human warmth moving through the stillness of winter. Tables stretch from wall to wall, rough boards scrubbed clean and heavy with food. Platters of meat glisten in the firelight. Bread lies in torn pieces, its crust dark and fragrant. Mugs of ale pass from hand to hand, each exchange marked by a smile, a nod, a small word shared between bites. The air hums with life. The long silence of cold months breaks open for a night of closeness and calm joy. Children sit near the hearth, their faces lit by the flame, their hands wrapped around bowls of stew. Old songs rise slowly, carried by familiar voices, melodies that have drifted through generations, soft and unhurried. No one sings loudly. The music lives in the warmth of togetherness, in the small harmony between laughter and flame. In one corner, an old craftsman tells a story, his voice low and rhythmic. He speaks of long winters past, of guild halls and markets buried in snow, of travelers who followed the stars to find warmth again. The listeners nod gently, their eyes half closed, the story folding into the sound of the fire. Time feels still, suspended between memory and dream. Outside, the wind moves through the beams of the houses, carrying with it the faint echo of song. The snow drifts lightly across the thresholds, uninvited but harmless. The world beyond the walls is cold and wide, but inside, the air is heavy with life. The fire breathes, the people breathe with it. The feast is not only for hunger, it is for belonging. As the night deepens, plates empty and voices fade to murmurs. A few candles gutter, their wax running slow and pale. The fire burns lower, its light softer now, its warmth steady and kind. The last cup is raised, not in noise, but in quiet gratitude, for the season, for the labor that made it, for the peace that comes when the work of the year is done. When the feast ends, no one rushes to leave. They sit for a while longer, letting the warmth sink deep into their bones. The laughter fades, but the calm remains. Outside, the snow continues to fall, covering every sound. Inside, the fire glows like a heartbeat, steady and sure. Celebrations of the townsfolk. The snow begins to soften, melting into streams that wander through the cobbled streets. The sky opens, pale and kind, and with the first warmth of spring comes sound. A single note of music drifts through the square, light as dust in the air. Then another follows, a lute, a drum, the faint clap of hands. The long silence of winter loosens its hold, and life, shy at first, steps gently back into the open. In small towns, celebration is not grand. It is quiet, woven from the threads of daily life. Ribbons are strung between windows, their colors moving softly in the wind. Children chase them, their laughter ringing through the streets like birdsong. Musicians sit on doorsteps, playing tunes that have no beginning or end, only the gentle sway of rhythm and joy. Bakers open their shutters, and the smell of bread mingles with the faint scent of flowers newly born. Neighbors gather without need for invitation. Someone brings wine, another carries a loaf of bread, still warm from the oven. Hands pass food, cups and laughter. Even the poorest among them share something, a smile, a song, a memory that fills the air with warmth. For a while, hunger and hardship are forgotten. The town becomes a single body breathing in peace, a heartbeat steady and human beneath the slow sky. The celebrations spill into the square. Cloth hangs from windows like soft banners, and the sound of feet on stone keeps time with the music. A child stumbles and is lifted, a cup is refilled, a story retold. The faces are lined by years, yet in this moment, all wear the same gentle light. The air glows with dusk, with the promise of another season lived and survived. As evening descends, the songs turn slower. Musicians lower their hands, the rhythm fading like smoke. Candles are lit in windows, casting golden circles on the darkening walls. The people drift homeward in twos and threes, their laughter quiet now, carried softly by the wind. The town returns to stillness, but something lingers in the air, the warmth of voices, the memory of shared life. Tomorrow, the work will begin again. The hammers will strike, the looms will hum, and the sound of daily labor will return. Yet tonight, in the hush after song, the town rests within its own peace. Under the tender breath of the night, it feels whole again, its heart steady, its spirit light. The great halls of the wealthy. The night unfolds slowly across the countryside, and through the mist, the lights of a manor house shimmer like stars caught close to the earth. Within its walls, warmth gathers in waves of sound and scent. Fires roar in stone hearths, sending gold across the tapestries that line the great hall. The air hums softly with laughter, footsteps, and the gentle murmur of instruments being tuned. It is a feast, not merely for hunger, but for the art of living, each moment crafted with care, each gesture polished by ritual and time. At the center of the hall, long tables gleam beneath the glow of 100 candles. Plates of silver and goblets of polished brass catch the light like small fires. The servants move gracefully, carrying dishes heavy with roasted meats, spiced fruits, and pies that glisten beneath layers of sugared crust. The scent of cinnamon, honey, and wine fills the air, mixing with the faint perfume of pine and wax. The hall feels alive, breathing in rhythm with its guests. Between courses, jesters weave among the tables, their bells soft, their movements light. They tell stories that make the air ripple with laughter, tales of kings, fools, and the unpredictable kindness of fate. Musicians sit along the edge of the room, their lutes and flutes blending into a calm and unending melody. The sound rises and falls like waves, touching every corner of the hall, lulling even the most restless heart into ease. Then comes spectacle, pastries that open to release fluttering birds, towers of spun sugar that shimmer like glass in the candlelight. Guests lift their eyes, smiling softly, not in surprise but in admiration. They have seen it all before, yet the beauty still soothes them. For all the grandeur, there is a gentle rhythm beneath it, an unspoken understanding that the feast is not about excess, but about presence. In the company of others, the burden of the world grows lighter. Behind the shimmer of gold and silk, servants move quietly. They refill cups, replace candles, and keep the fire alive. Their steps make no sound, their faces remain calm, yet they, too, belong to this moment. The warmth touches them just the same. In the spaces between laughter and song, they pause, watching the dance of light across the walls. It is not envy they feel, but something quieter, a recognition that beauty, even borrowed, can still bring peace. As the night deepens, the music slows, the candles burn lower, their flames stretching thin. Guests lean back in their chairs, their voices softening into murmurs. The jesters rest, the servants gather plates, and the musicians play one final tune, slow, melodic, almost like a prayer. The hall glows with fading light, the shadows turning warm and familiar. When at last the feast ends, the people linger. No one wishes to break the spell. They speak quietly of nothing, simply listening to the echo of the music that has already gone. The fire sighs one last time, its light flickering against the faces of those who remain. The hall feels empty, yet full, filled with the aftertaste of warmth, of human closeness, of comfort found in company. The shared stillness. As night deepens, the sounds of the world grow softer. The great halls, once bright with music and laughter, fall into calm. Candles burn lower, their flames bending gently in the quiet air. Voices fade to murmurs, slow and thoughtful, as if words themselves have grown tired. The warmth of food becomes the warmth of memory. Faces glow faintly in the last light, touched by a peace that asks for nothing more. Beyond the walls, frost creeps silently along the windows, tracing pale lines like delicate veins of silver. The gardens lie still under the weight of cold, their fountains frozen, their leaves wrapped in glass. A thin moon hangs above, watching in silence. The wind moves softly through the trees, carrying with it the faint echo of laughter that still lingers from the feast. The earth exhales long and slow, as if finally released from the day. Inside, people lean closer to the hearth, their eyes half closed, their bodies sinking into rest. The last cups of wine stand untouched, the last notes of the lute drift upward like smoke. The servants move quietly, gathering plates, banking the fire, drawing curtains against the chill. No one rushes. Time has loosened its hold. The world inside feels small and safe, enclosed by warmth and gentle air. There is a kind of stillness that only comes when joy has spent itself, when the noise has ended, and what remains is the soft afterglow of being together. It fills the hall now, tender and light, settling over every table, every beam, every stone. It is not silence, but something deeper, a shared peace, a breath held between hearts. For a few moments, all things feel whole, untouched by want or sorrow. As the last candle flickers, the room becomes a dim sea of gold and shadow. Outside, the frost thickens. Inside, the air hums faintly with warmth, with contentment, with the quiet truth that every gathering, no matter how grand, ends in stillness, and in that stillness life feels most alive. After the feast, the night has grown deep and blue, the laughter has vanished, leaving only the faint echo of voices that once filled the hall. The feast has ended. The tables, once heavy with food and light, stand bare now, the scent of spice and smoke still drifting faintly in the air. Dishes are cleared, candles go out one by one, their small flames sighing into darkness. The warmth that filled the room lingers a little longer, suspended like breath, before fading into stillness. The servants move softly, their steps slow, their gestures careful. The scrape of wood, the quiet rustle of linen, the soft closing of doors. Each sound falls gently into place, part of the rhythm of ending. The great hearth glows dim, its embers flickering low, each spark a small memory of the fire's bright heart. Ash gathers like snow, pale and quiet, a sign that even heat must learn to rest. Outside, the streets lie empty beneath the moon. Frost begins to spread across stone and window, silvering the edges of the world. The air is cold but calm, the kind of cold that holds no malice, only peace. The houses stand still, their chimneys breathing thin trails of smoke. Somewhere, a bell marks the hour, its sound drifting softly over rooftops before dissolving into silence. Within the manor walls, the last of the guests have gone. Chairs are pushed aside, curtains drawn, and the room cools slowly. What remains is the quiet pulse of memory, the faint glow of shared warmth, the echo of music now gone. The night feels vast again, its stillness unbroken. The hall, once alive with color and sound, now sleeps beneath its own shadow. Beyond the windows, the town rests. Dogs curl beside doors, candles fade behind shutters, and the river reflects the frozen light of the moon. Tomorrow, the rhythm will begin again. Fires will be lit, ovens warmed, tools lifted, and voices will rise once more to greet the day. But for now, the world belongs to quiet. The feast is finished, the year turns, and sleep spreads gently through the town like snow. Faustina the Younger. A life within marble. In the heart of the old empire, where marble glows pale beneath the Roman sun, a girl named Faustina is born. Her cradle stands within walls carved with patterns of order and permanence. The air she breathes carries the calm weight of history. From her earliest days, she moves through corridors filled with the murmur of voices, measured, careful, trained to speak only truth or silence. She learns to walk, not with haste, but with composure. To watch before acting, to listen before speaking. The empire itself seems to breathe through her, patient and composed. The marble floors echo with the soft steps of her tutors, the quiet shuffle of parchment, the rustle of silk. She studies the stories of those who came before her, emperors, consuls, wives whose names were carved into stone. Yet her world is not made of ambition, it is made of poise. The light from the courtyards falls in long, white stripes across her face as she learns to write, to sew, to wait. Time stretches gently, like the surface of still water. Outside, Rome moves with its endless hum, markets alive with color, temples gleaming beneath the sun, soldiers marching toward distant frontiers. But within the villa, all is order. The girl grows in the rhythm of its calm, shaped by walls that never raise their voices. Her teachers speak to her of grace and endurance, virtues that outlast beauty, even power. She listens and absorbs as quiet as the marble itself. Years pass, and the world beyond her gates begins to shift. The empire breathes, expands, contracts, and still she stands within it like a figure carved from light. The lessons of stillness and strength take root in her heart, not as armor, but as calm. By the time she steps into womanhood, the girl of marble halls has learned to carry silence as a kind of crown. Marriage to Marcus Aurelius. She marries at 15, her youth still wrapped in the soft veil of innocence. Her husband is Marcus Aurelius, philosopher and emperor, a man whose thoughts move like rivers, quiet on the surface, deep beneath. Their union is not just one of love, but of balance. He governs with reason, she steadies him with warmth. Together they stand within the endless machinery of empire, their days guided by duty, their nights by reflection. Faustina learns quickly that the weight of a crown is not measured in gold, but in silence. Their home becomes both refuge and command post, where scrolls and armor lie side by side. When Marcus writes of virtue, she listens. When he falters beneath the strain of leadership, she remains near, her presence a soft reminder of humanity amid the noise of state. They travel together through calm and unrest, across mountains and plains where legions march in disciplined rows. The tents of their journeys smell of parchment, leather, and fire. The empire breathes around them, sometimes gently, sometimes with the ragged rhythm of war. Yet in every place they dwell, she brings order, grace, and the quiet that allows thought to deepen. To the soldiers, she becomes a symbol of constancy. They call her Mater Castrorum, the mother of the camps. She moves among them without fear, offering kindness where words cannot reach. The empire may tremble, but near her peace endures. Their partnership is not loud. It is built on looks shared in passing, on the comfort of understanding without speech. In a world of commands, their bond is unspoken consent, mutual respect, and the serenity that only wisdom allows. She is the stillness to his storm, the quiet rhythm that steadies his thoughts. Together they hold the empire not with force, but with grace. Motherhood and duty. In the years that follow, Faustina's life becomes a cycle of birth and farewell. She bears child after child, each one a small universe of hope. But many do not survive. The marble halls echo with both laughter and loss, with lullabies that fade into silence. Through it all, her strength remains unbroken, her patience unspoken. She learns to hold grief gently, the way one cradles a fragile flame. Each morning she rises before the sun, her thoughts steady, her face calm. Her hands, though soft, carry the weight of generations. She tends not only to her children, but to the spirit of the empire itself, weaving tenderness into the fabric of duty. Her love becomes discipline, her sorrow a quiet form of devotion. Among her surviving children is a boy named Commodus. She watches him with care, knowing that legacy is never simple. In his laughter she hears echoes of her own father, in his eyes the restless fire of his ancestors. She teaches him restraint, though she knows the empire's shadow already lies across his path. A mother cannot shape the world, only prepare a heart to meet it. In the palace gardens she walks beneath olive trees, her steps slow, her gaze far. The empire hums beyond the walls, but here she feels time moving differently, measured not in power, but in tenderness. The light catches the folds of her gown, and for a moment she seems carved of the same stone that once surrounded her childhood. When she looks back on her life, she does not see triumph or tragedy, only the rhythm of endurance, the quiet grace of being constant. Her story is not carved in conquest, but in stillness. She was mother, wife, empress, and keeper of calm. And through her, the empire learned that strength can whisper. The woman among soldiers. The air at the empire's edge is thin and cold, carrying with it the scent of iron and pine. Along the distant frontiers, tents rise like small cities of cloth, their fires glowing against the dusk. It is here that Faustina walks beside her husband, the emperor, her steps sure, her presence steady. Soldiers pause as she passes, their voices softening. They call her Mater Castrorum, the mother of the camp. In a world ruled by order and command, her kindness becomes its own quiet discipline. She moves through the rows of tents with no guard at her side. The men stand taller when she approaches, not out of fear, but respect. She asks about their health, their families, their homes. Sometimes she gives them bread, sometimes only a word. But in her voice, they hear Rome itself, not the distant marble of the capital, but the warmth of its promise, the reminder that even in the cold, they are not forgotten. At night, she sits near the campfires, the wind tugging gently at her cloak. The soldiers tell stories, and she listens, her face calm in the glow. The flames catch the gold in her hair, and for a moment, she seems less an empress than a symbol of home. Around her, the noise of war softens. Beneath her gaze, men remember gentleness. The world, for a heartbeat, feels human again. The final journey. Far from Rome, on a quiet road lined with cypress trees, her life reaches its final dusk. The air is cool, the horizon pale with fading light. She has traveled for years beside her husband, through peace and hardship, through the shifting seasons of empire, and now her strength wanes gently, as though the earth itself were calling her to rest. When she dies, the emperor's world stills. Marcus Aurelius, who had spent a lifetime mastering the art of reason, finds no philosophy strong enough to soften this loss. He orders temples built in her name, coins struck with her image, and cities founded in her memory. In marble, her likeness endures, serene, composed, untouched by rumor or praise. The stone captures not her power, but her calm, the quiet grace that guided an empire through its storms. Her passing marks the end of a chapter, yet her presence lingers. Soldiers remember her kindness, the people speak her name with gentle reverence. In the imperial gardens, her statues stand where she once walked, surrounded by olive trees and the low hum of bees. The empire continues, but somewhere within it, a stillness remains, carved in her image, eternal and tender as light upon stone. The quiet legacy. Centuries drift like dust over forgotten cities. Empires rise, shine, and fade, yet her face remains. The marble that once glowed beneath Roman sunlight still stands, pale and unbroken. Time has worn away the edges of monuments, erased the names of rulers, but Faustina's expression endures, calm, steady, eternal. Visitors pass through the ruins where her likeness rests. They do not know her story, yet they feel her presence. The quiet dignity in her eyes speaks across ages, beyond language, beyond power. It is the stillness of acceptance, the peace that outlasts ambition. The empire that once called her divine is gone, its banners turned to dust, but her image, carved in serenity, continues to breathe through stone. In museums and forgotten temples, light moves slowly across her face. The marble glows faintly as though holding the warmth of long-vanished fires. The world around her has changed 1,000 times, yet the essence of her calm remains the same, a reminder that within all grandeur lies gentleness, and that even in the heart of power there are moments of stillness that outlive everything. The story drifts to its quiet end. The lights of Rome, the hum of workshops, the laughter from feasts, all have faded into the soft rhythm of memory. What remains is the stillness beneath it all, the calm that connects centuries of hands and hearts. From the roar of the Colosseum to the whisper of a craftsman's chisel, every sound was part of the same long breath, the story of how people sought meaning, beauty, and peace within the turning world. Faustina's face still watches from the marble, serene and eternal. Around her, time moves on, yet she does not change. She reminds us that strength is not only in command or creation, but in quiet endurance, in the steady pulse of kindness, in the calm that follows the storm. The empire may have fallen, its banners turned to dust, but the gentleness she carried still glows like a hidden ember, deep beneath history's weight. Now let the world grow still again. Let the noise of centuries fade. Imagine the marble cooling under starlight, the air filled with the hush of distant ages. The fires are gone, the crowds have gone home, and the city sleeps beneath the silver veil of night. You, too, can rest here, safe within this ancient calm, where memory breathes softly and time itself lies quiet. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the peace of forgotten empires drift through you. The marble sleeps, the sea of ages sighs, and all that was restless finds its rest. The night is long, the world is kind, and you are home within its stillness.